Hi, it's Paul Bursey and welcome to healthierlife.tv. I'm here with...
Hi everybody, it's Warren Conley. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Fantastic.
Welcome to our podcast today.
On a health angle, how's your week gone?
Slow.
Okay.
On the health angle, it's been slow.
Oh,
But
right.
very little training this week thus far. Eating has been okay. It's been consistent. But the energy has not been very high because I've just not getting enough sleep at the moment, unfortunately.
Oh, talking about that, I had 8 hours sleep last night.
Man,
I don't normally have 8 hours sleep. It's normally 7 or less. So
it's like two nights for me. 8 hours sleep. It's like 2 nights worth of sleep for me.
anyway, enough about our sleep habits. Anyway, today's headline is "Slow is smooth, smooth is fast." Now, personally, I love this phrase. I mean, it comes from the US Navy SEALs, and it's all about doing things properly. That's the best way that I can describe it in my words. So, what about you, Warren? What do you, without going into too much of your private life? What does it mean to you? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Pretty much the same thing. You can't really digress too much from that unless you don't understand what it means. But if you understand what it means, sometimes we just need to slow down in order for things to progress quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I remember things like simple little things like doing up your laces. If you rush it, it all goes horribly wrong, doesn't it?
That's true.
Take your
Even
time,
today,
do it properly, and you end up saving time.
yeah.
It's really
Even
weird,
today,
isn't it? Yeah.
46 years later, you could probably maybe not tie my shoelaces at the age of 2, but thereabouts. 46, 45 years later, if I rush it today, I get it wrong. It gets all muddled up. Tying my shoelaces.
So what we're talking about here, what is relating to is health and wellness. Okay, make no bones about it. But it does relate to absolutely everything you do, whether you're studying for exam or whether you're in a professional setting, which we'll come to as we go through, just to get our point over. And look, the bottom line is we all rush things.
Yeah.
If we can get a quick fix, we will use it. All right, to save time. A lot of the time we make the wrong moves and have to start all over again, because we wanted to rush things.
True.
You can't rush painting. If you're painting a door frame, you can't rush it. Okay. And because it becomes a complete waste of time, and because you have to go back, and if you get it wrong, it's horrid. If you're using the right type of paint, you can't start all over again. In fact, it doubles up in the amount of work you've got to do. So it's better if you're going to paint a door frame to learn how to do it properly, and then once you've learned it, it's done forevermore.
Done and dusted.
But in health and wellness, I mean, as you know, I'm doing quite a large course on functional nutrition, and the whole thing is about clinical investigation, right? And it takes as long as it takes. You can't put a time on it, because if someone comes to you with an ailment, a challenge, a problem, some medical obstacle or physical obstacle they want to overcome, or they've got something wrong with them, you need to ask them a lot of questions. Now, it goes back to our call the other day about asking questions.
Yes.
And what you want to do is come to the right conclusion. Sometimes, I'm not knocking doctors at all here, but sometimes you go to the doctor, they'll ask you some questions and they'll make a snap judgment, and they will give you antibiotics or whatever it may be to deal with what they think it is.
They think it is, yeah.
Sometimes you get good, really, really good doctors who actually go the extra mile, and they'll start sending you for tests and things like that to make sure it is what they think it is, And I don't know about you, but I've had instances of both. One where something's been not rushed, but a bit too quick, and other times when the doctor's really taken their time and thoroughly gone through everything as much as they possibly can as a general practitioner. You know. What about you? You found that?
Two very critical areas of my life where I found that happened the same like that. They took their time. One was when I had my toes chopped up, and when I was 6 years old. And I still remember the doctor he just took his time. He said to me, with me taking my time now, this is going to hurt you more, but it's going to save your toes, rather than rushing it. And then the other one was when I shattered my forearm. I was actually quite grateful at the time that they took their time with operating on it and they didn't rush the operation, because if they had, it probably may have been a botched job because the doctor was fasting. So he was fasting, and it was basically, I came into the hospital just before iftar. So for those of you folks that don't know iftar, it's when you're fasting during Ramadan in the Muslim world, when they fast for a month, and then iftar is when they break their fast. Okay, and it was around the time of iftar, so he was in two minds. Do I try to schedule him in for the operation now, or do we wait until tomorrow? And I was like in two minds myself, because I wanted the operation to get done so I could start to recover. But it was at the same time, in hindsight, I was glad that he took it slowly. He didn't rush the process, because it worked out better in the long run that way. But I mean, you can think about when you're driving down the road. You're driving down the road, not that many of us get to drive around down the road that often these days, but think of it like when you're driving in traffic and you get some guy in a, I don't know, maybe a Golf GTI or BMW 3 Series comes screaming past you, all right, weaving through the traffic. You get to the next set of traffic lights, okay, down the road, and who's sitting right in front of you?
Or behind you in a different line, which is
behind you, yeah. All you do is you just taking it slowly. You just drive it slowly, in a composed manner, and you end up getting there either at the same time or even before them, as you say. So, this is, and you mentioned time just now as well. When we grow up, we age in the same rate. Some of us may be biologically older than others than our chronological age, because of our health and things like that. So we may actually physically be older than we are chronologically speaking. But we all age at the same rate. You can't rush it. And it happens in its own time for the right reasons. So,
but you can cause yourself problems, and age very quickly, if you do certain things wrong.
Precisely, that's what I'm saying. It depends on your health. Depending on your health.
Absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, we're talking about good stuff here. And, there are no shortcuts in anything. I mean, if you're doing an exam, you can cram, and that works for some people. I like to cram, but I like to do the work previously as well. So you get a double hit. But you've got to find what works for you. But when you're talking about health and wellness, there is no shortcut. Okay. You have to go through the motions. You have to go through, as you say, when I said the other day about having been a detective and having an idiot list, which isn't an idiot list. It's just what I used to call it. But it's to make sure that you can't get caught out when you go to court. You've covered every base.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what you need to do in health and wellness. You need to cover every base, because if you rush things, right, you can get it so badly wrong. And you're talking about reputation. You could be talking about being sued or anything, So it's important that you know what you're talking about, and then you implement some kind of clinical investigation, which is obviously a series of question and answers, and you're going to go through and take your time and find out exactly what the challenge is.
And I've seen this happen many times in the past, where people would come to me for a quick fix. When I used to work in gyms and things like that, and members would come to me and ask me randomly for, like, how can I lose this fat as quickly as possible? They'll have a wedding in 3 months' time, and I need to lose 20 kilograms. Okay, well, yeah. And I would never advocate quick fixes to them. I would never say to them, look, take this. This is going to help you. But other trainers would gladly do that, and I can see how it would benefit them in their own heads, the trainer, because now that person's going to get a very quick result, and they're going to remember that trainer's name or that trainer, that association. So they're going to want to go back to that trainer. However, what will happen is, and this is something that I regularly tell people, is if it's taken you 20 years to put on X amount of weight, or let's say it's taken you 5 years to put on 20 kilograms, you cannot expect your body to adapt by giving it a fast remedy, a faster than natural remedy. And when I say natural, I mean eating correctly, exercising in a correct manner, getting the same amount of rest, just like you said, Paul, where you're covering those bases. You're taking care of yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, and everything. Now, when people take these quick fixes, they take some kind of a magic potion that's going to help them to lose, all right? They're losing that weight a lot faster than they should naturally, because it's taken them 5 years or so to put it on. They need to take time to reduce the weight, and then also to, again, take it slowly and maintain that new weight for their body, so their body can adapt. And this is part of taking it slow, in order for the slow to be smooth. So the smoother it is, the better it is at the end of the day. It's less wear and tear on those tires.
Well, look, I mean, even when I changed the marathon now, I can tell you that to become smooth and fast, right, you have to be smooth and slow first, because you're just not ready for the rigors of the extra training that you have to do later on. I mean, the best thing I ever did wasn't a race. It was actually doing 20 miles in training. And I'll tell you what, I sailed through it at my fastest speed. And that's only because of, all the work I'd done over the previous 18 months. Right? And it was easy. I've got to tell you, it was easy. But it wouldn't have been without those 18 months. Sure. So that's what I mean by being slow. It's being about being consistent and sticking with it until you get the right answers. You can't, as I say, you can't take shortcuts. Well, there are ways to do shortcuts, but even if you take a shortcut, you still need to go back and do and track your progress, or track what's been happening. So you could speak to someone and they say, well, I'm getting headaches. Well, quick question: how much are you drinking? How much water are you drinking? So you could shortcut that part of it, right, and get them from that day to start drinking a lot more. Okay. But then you go back and then you've got to start again and go through it all. So you can take little shortcuts, but basically you've got to go back to the beginning. Always go back to the beginning to make sure you get it 100% right. Because getting them to drink more water is not going to hurt them. Okay. So, and that, of course not. But, and what we're looking for is the right route to solve the problems, whatever they may be. And, we all got challenges. We all have to overcome things that go wrong. And but the biggest thing I see is people jumping to conclusions. And the classic example of jumping to conclusions is when a police officer shoots someone. You see people jumping to conclusions, and of course the police way is to investigate it properly and look at everything, And unfortunately, some people just want to cause problems because they just see it as a way of causing problems. But you just can't jump to conclusions, because you may be totally wrong.
And on top of that, because people do they themselves would, not everybody, okay, but those people that like to think in that manner will themselves take shortcuts invariably in life. And we all take shortcuts from time to time. And when we think we can get away with it, we do. We're all susceptible in that way. But they think then that in the case of a police example, like you've used now, okay, that the police would be covering that up in order to bypass that that incident, where it's not true, because like you say, the police will thoroughly go through everything that's happened in order to make sure that whatever the outcome is the real outcome, and it's not fabricated, it's not wrapped under covers and things like that. Because this is what makes the police so effective is their thoroughness. The fact that they have to be thorough, because they are accountable, not just to themselves, but to the public as well, and to government and whatever else.
Yeah, and because the other thing is, when you're around a bunch of police officers, what do you think? I mean, they can talk about a lot of things. They can talk about going out for a drink and women and things like that. But what I'm saying is, when you actually get down to work, who do you think asks the best questions? A bunch of police officers sitting around. You think if one of their colleagues has done something wrong, you don't think they're going to talk about it?
Of course they are, yeah.
You know, and as I say, they're the worst ones. For we'll sort it out, definitely. You know, officially or unofficially, or whatever. But they will be the ones asking questions, and they would be the people I'd want to listen to.
Because it's in their nature, isn't it?
It is in their nature, and it's the same with someone who's in the medical profession, who's of that ilk, the way about asking questions and really delving deep and keep diving deep all the time until you get the answers that are required. You know, there is no rush. I mean, look, someone can come to me with a pain, with an ache, or a set of symptoms, and there are protocols to be followed. And that's, you know, by taking time. You're following, it may be your protocol, but, you know, you're going to go through these protocols to come to the right answer. And also, if you can't work out what it is, there's a whole band of people, especially in the functional nutritional thing, and I've got a board of people that I can go to and tell them exactly what the problem is. And if I can't work it out, they will.
Well, it's just like yesterday. I saw an article on about omega-3s, okay, and the impact of the DHA EPA levels, the ratios of DHA EPA. So for those folks that are not aware, is, you know, EPA, DHA are two essential omega-3 fatty acids that we require in our diet, and they were talking about the supplemental aspect, and if the ratios are not correct, then it'll have a negative impact on our cardiovascular health, okay, or our heart and so forth, okay. So I saw this article. I thought that's interesting. So I forwarded the article to a mutual friend and business partner of ours, and he then forwarded that on to one of the doctors that we do business with, that's on our scientific advisory board, Dr. Paul Clayton, and he forwarded it on to him, and Dr. Clayton came back with saying, no, that's an old article and it's not really relevant anymore. It's not really relevant anymore. And especially in line with what we're doing, you know, from a nutritional standpoint, it's not really relevant. But the thing is that I took it slowly. I decided to check it, to base check it, see where, you know, and then see if I can get some other opinion on it before making a judgment call on what that article meant. And it was a very thorough study that had been done, and it was done with around 10,000 people, but you know, it's not really relevant anymore in any case, you know, in spite of that. So
yeah, I mean, what the thing is with the medical profession and nutrition and things like that, they're well, definitely nutrition. It's a young science, you know. What, 60, 70 years old? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a little bit longer, but you know, so it's always moving. Everything's moving. So, you know, whereas you could give some kind of diagnosis to someone, it could be tweaked another week down the road, and they might add something else in that helps even more. You know, so it's important that we get things right at the time. At the time, because it can, as I say, it can change. But think of a sniper. Think what. I say that because this really comes from being a sniper and the Navy SEALs. So slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So what do you think some of the attributes would be for someone who is a sniper? And we can adapt it to whatever we're doing.
Yeah, sure. Well, patience is a major factor involved.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's a lot of waiting involved, and also moving. Sometimes snipers have to move, so they need to be able to move very slowly, very cautiously, and without being noticed, because they're a sniper at the end of the day. So they've got to be very wary and move as slowly as they possibly can when they have to move. But the other thing is that pulling the trigger. So if you've ever dealt with a firearm before, you'll know you don't snap that trigger back unless you're in a quick fire situation. But if you're a sniper and you've got one shot to make a kill shot, all right, you are going to slowly move that trigger. That trigger is going to move ever so slowly, because the slightest twitch and you'll be off, especially if you're shooting from 2 miles away. The slightest twitch and you'll be way off target. So that's one of the other things about a sniper, is that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, because that's going to hit the target quicker. You don't have to waste your rounds, but you've got to move that trigger really slowly.
What do they call it? Kentucky windage.
Kentucky windage.
Yeah, it was the old thing from Davy Crockett and things like that. And whereas they knew that the wind affected where the shot went.
Oh yeah, sure.
Take all that into account.
Oh yes, of course.
You can't rush that. I
remember in the military doing firearm training. Okay, now bearing in mind, I could blindfolded. I had a semi-automatic rifle. All right, it's a R4 rifle, and I used to be able to blindfold it, take that apart, and put it back together again within 20 seconds. Okay. And we used to sleep with our firearms. That was our girlfriend in the military.
Yeah, did you get a name?
Yeah, I never gave her a name because I didn't want to become attached to her that much. But no, if I did give her a name, I don't remember it. That's how well we knew our firearms. So when we went to the firing range, there was a classic scenario happened with me. Was we would take into account the wind direction, speed of the wind, all of this kind of stuff. We were trained on that and taught that. And the results would come back, and my percentages would be, now we were shooting anywhere from 500 yards and beyond, okay? And my results would come back at like around the high 70s. And I was like, that's not possible. That's not possible. I know that I should be getting at least mid 80s to early 90s minimum. And they were like, no, you're a shit shot, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's not true. And then we tested the rifle, and the barrel was bent.
Yeah.
They gave me a dodgy rifle to begin with, okay?
They knew it, really.
And the barrel was slightly bent. It wasn't on cue. And I knew, because I took what they showed me, because I wanted to do well. I wanted to do well as a sniper, as a marksman. And I used to take my time. I really took my time. And it just never came back. I didn't reflect in my scores. So,
yeah. So one of the first things, I mean, patience is definitely one of those things, by the way. But one of the first things is being a keen observer.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be able to scan everything in front of you, and pay attention to what to everything, all the details. Pay attention to details is a huge one. Awareness. Awareness of your surroundings, awareness of everything that's in front of you as well. I mean, if you're a sniper, you can't watch the back. Okay, you are totally focused.
Yeah.
So hopefully someone else is covering your back. But you've got to be able to make decisions based on the evidence that you can see or that you found out, and have the ability to adapt.
Well, this is another key thing, is that make decisions based on the evidence that you have. So I can say from the bush, from perspective of being in the bush, but when you're in the bush and you're lying undercover, okay, and you're in camouflage and you're waiting to spring a trap on somebody, okay, you scanning the bush. But this is the same, like I wanted to touch on earlier with studying. If you're studying for a course or exams or something like that, you do the work every day. Every day you do a little bit of the work. You do a little bit of the work. You do a little bit of the work. You do a little bit of the work every day. So then at the end of it, when you're coming towards an exam, you're going back over everything, but you've been doing all that work prior. So now what you're doing is you're covering your bases, and you're going through everything again. And it's the same when you're in the bush or as a sniper and you're looking for your targets. You scan, and when you've reached your range, you come back. And slowly, so that way you're covering your bases again. And this is another factor with working slowly, is making sure you're able to cover your bases. So even in a business environment, perspective, you start off, you know what you need, you get to know what you need to do, you identify what you need to do, you do one little bit every day. Consistency. Paul said it, consistency. And that's slow. You're not going to be fast being consistent. But what it will do is it'll get you to your goals much quicker than if you're doing stop, start.
Absolutely, yeah. So patience. I mean, you're talking about practice. You're talking about fine tuning as well with anything you do. It's not just nutrition. It's everything. It's and when you need to, you seek guidance. That's the old fallback thing, isn't it? There's always someone knows more than what you do. So
and if there isn't, then you're in the wrong pond.
That's right, absolutely, fishing in the wrong pond. Right, we all want to get the job done successfully, but how many times have you rushed things only to have to go back to the beginning and start again?
Yeah.
And maybe we need to start with a deep breath, which I know all snipers do before they make the shot, because they need to steady their nerves, to steady everything down, But and the other thing is that any professional will know you need to consider your options. All right, everyone's got options about what they can do, and then you can go for the kill shot, as you say, as a sniper, or you can finalize or complete your investigation as someone in nutrition. But it's always going to be open. It's always going to be open-ended because you can add to it and improve and tweak and things like that. So, but all of this takes time. You can't, I know it's a little bit different with someone like Usain Bolt, who's doing 100 meters, but what you see is the 100 meters he does to win the gold medal, right? But what you don't see are the nearly 4 years of training before that.
Oh yeah.
You don't see that.
And how slow that was getting there. How slow that was getting there in the first place.
Yeah, that's right. And then you peak. The idea is to peak at the Olympic 100 meter final. Yeah, that's how it should be. Okay, it doesn't always work out to plan.
Of course not.
No.
Ask what's his name? Atto Boldon. You remember Atto Boldon?
Nigerian runner. Is he Nigerian or is he from
Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah.
So he always used to peak just before the Olympic Games. Poor guy. He was come to the Olympic.
It still wasn't enough.
Yeah, but so he would peak just prior to that. So and there was even the New Zealand rugby team, the All Blacks. There was for many years they just couldn't win a World Cup. They would be the most dominant team in world rugby for more than a decade. I mean, for 20 years, they'd be basically the most dominant team in world rugby, but they just couldn't win a World Cup because they were peaking too early in each cycle. And by the time the World Cup came around, they were undercooked. So they would peak and then they would be undercooked by the time the semi-final, quarterfinals, semi-finals came around, because typically the draws have been always very, very favorable for them because they've been the best team in the world. And then they would end up being undercooked. But prior to that, they had peaked already before. So it was a bit of a catch-22 situation for them. And this can happen in business too. Especially in our business, for example. When you're working in our industry, you need to look at it. It's important to look at it as like a Boeing 747. You thrust it off, you get the momentum going, but you can't burn all your fuel at once. You've got to keep the reserves going. So it's got to be controlled. It's got to be measured thrust. You thrust off. Once you get to altitude, you cruise. And then
Sounds Apollo 13.
So it's the same thing as well. It's anything, as Paul said, anything in life, if you can take it with a measured control, slow it down, and then slowly build your momentum. Before you know it, you'll be running like 100 meters like Usain Bolt, but in your head it feels like you're going at cruise speed. And I'm pretty sure for those athletes as well that are running the 100 meters in the Olympics and World Championships and stuff like that, in their head they're probably going so slowly because everything slows down around them. I think they are so pinpoint focused on what they're doing, that I think everything around them just kind of like they're able to bend the reality of time in some aspects, I think, in their head at least.
Yeah. Right, just thinking from obviously doing my nutritional, I'm into digestion at the moment, so that's the topic that I've been just finishing up on. And if someone comes to me and they have a digestive problem, now obviously I'm going to work with them, and I will have intent and calmness. The intent is to work through it with them and come to the right result, not a fast result, a right result. But I've got to stay calm, and there's no rush here, because there's certain things you've got to look at when you're dealing with digestion, and it starts in the mouth. Right? It could be something as simple as chewing. Then you go down the esophagus, come to the stomach, and there's other things that I have to take into account, like the liver, the gallbladder, and then obviously we've got the pancreas, we've got the small intestine, and we've got the colon, which is the large intestine. But there's another bit after that as well, and that obviously is when you're excreting, through the anus and things like that. So there's a whole string of things that could be affecting the digestion. And all I'm saying is you're not going to do that. You're not going to cover everything in one setting, one sitting, as it were. Sorry.
Sitting, yeah.
It's going to take time to find out what's wrong. So same when you're doing a sleep assessment. If there's I can think straight off the top of my head of 30 questions that I can ask someone about their sleep, that I would go through. And I was looking at one the other day, and they'd miss something off as well. I'm not going to say what it was, but they'd miss something off, and there's other things that they could talk about as well, and it wasn't covered in there. So not only have you got to look at the person, you've got to come from the back of their problem the other way as well. That's what I used to do as a detective, right? You used to you had your witnesses you need to talk to, other bits and pieces, and you went through this idiot list, as I call it, all right? But then what I did, I reversed it all and started looking at it from the point of view of the defence team. How are they going to get their man off? Whether he did it or not is immaterial, really, at this point. But how are they going to get him off? What gaps are they looking for in the police evidence?
Okay.
From that, I'd look at it, and it used to work dream, because, obviously, occasionally there was one or two things that they could bring up that you'd never even thought of. But generally speaking, if I did it that way, then I didn't have problems. I don't know if murder investigations do the same thing, but I know from my point of view I do, and so it's very, very important that whatever you do in life, you cover it thoroughly. It's very, very important. So
of course it's important, but it's not always
always done.
Yeah, well, obviously not. Obviously, it's not always done. It's seldom done, in actual fact, by the vast majority of us. But it's also, and it's seldom done because it's not always practical to be done at the time. In people's heads, it's not always the right time for them, and this leads into many other factors like procrastination, excuses, accountability, and then. Your time management, which we spoke about on Monday, the illusion of time management. And, you've got to manage yourself before you can manage your time. And as easy as that is to say, it's not the easiest thing to do. So I get this. And Paul and I, we get the fact that the things that we speak about, like now, what we're talking about now, it's not just cut and paste kind of stuff. This is unique for each individual. Yeah. It's the same as your line of questioning when you're talking about somebody with their health, with regards to health. You'll have a basis of questions to ask, and you're going to go through them thoroughly, but you're not going to have the same questions you're going to be repeating day in and day out with each client. So with life and with the things that happen in our life and everything that goes on around us, it's not always conducive to the situation for us to be able to take things slowly and smoothly.
No, that's right.
So it is important to bear that in mind, and also then figure out what is a strategy that you can use so that you can be more thorough. You can be a little slower in your not actioning, but your actioning. Let's just say actioning. I can't think of the right word right now. And then work on a strategy for that. But if you're constantly rushing around and you're making excuses, you're not being accountable to yourself and everything else that I've mentioned, then you're never going to get there. So you've got to be honest and open with yourself. Be accountable. Be honest. Take the time, sit down, and figure out how can I make things work a little slower and a little smoother for us. And then if you can't, still come and speak to Paul and I. Yeah. And again, we don't have all the answers, but we do have some answers. And we don't have a quick fix solution to anything. It's a solution for the right time, in the right manner, in the right way. And then we will help you with that. And
we have access to people that are, even better than us.
Even better than us, far better than us. Yeah, we do.
Wait, and think of it this way. Look, if you were going to a heart doctor, say you needed a new heart or something, in that area, or you were dealing with a brain surgeon.
You make it sound like you're going shopping for a handbag in that area in that area.
Or you were dealing with an accountant or an engineer. The one word that comes to mind is precision. Okay? We would all demand precision from these people. All right? Because that's what's required.
Yeah.
But the problem we have, there's a temptation to move hyper quickly at work. Whatever work you do, because the pressure's on some of the times, and it's the nature of people. There's, as you like my favourite saying, the nanosecond culture. The demand is rapidity, right? They want people to be rapid as possible. The only challenge you have with that is attention spans are down dramatically.
Cool, man.
Yeah, and
that's this is going to be a huge problem as the younger generation goes forward.
I mean, it's a huge problem in the advertising world. The attention spans. So you can imagine what it's like if you are a professional, and in some of those things that I mentioned, those jobs I mentioned, the challenges that they face, and again, you look at then you have to look at that particular doctor, his health, his sleeping habits, so it does have tremendous knock-on effects, and that's why we have to get things right, and we're all going to make mistakes, okay, and sometimes we have to accept that they're mistakes,
yes,
and being held accountable for errors that were avoidable, and but we must allow professionals to do their job properly, and that you must forward them the time. And I said to you before, they used to send me, I'd be working 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. as a police officer, and they'd send me to a major crime at 12:30 or something like that. I'd come back at 4 o'clock. They hated it because you earned overtime from it, and I did do it to wind them up, I've got to be honest. But I also had the other thing is I had to do a professional job for the victim. So I just say, look, if you want me to do things, I'm going to do them properly. Otherwise, don't send me.
Yeah. Oh yes.
I hope also that we don't ever follow the sheep. Okay, because there's a lot of sheep out there. That's why you see these pictures of all these white sheep with one black sheep in the middle. Now, I'm not saying be the black sheep of the family and all that type of thing, but what I am saying is that sometimes you have to make a stand.
Yeah, just don't be the sheep that follows the herd. That's all.
Yeah, don't follow the herd who rushes things.
Yeah.
So, apart from that,
they use they.
At all?
No, nothing else I can think of at the top of my head.
Right, I noticed when I was doing my research, I noticed a few quotes. I just wanted to say them. I wrote them down. Napoleon said, "Dress me slowly. I am in a hurry." You think about it logically, it's right, isn't it? When you're trying to do buttons up, it's like you can't. You've ever been in a rush and you can't do the button up? You can't get it right.
The worst one is a tie. When you're in a rush and you're trying to do a tie.
A lot of people cheat, don't they? A lot of people have it already done. Something just yeah. But make haste slowly. More haste, less speed.
Yeah, hurry up and hurry up and wait. That's like a very famous one from the military. Hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Isaac Newton had one as well. You know, the old apple on the head, gravity and all that. And he was talking about the third law, about equal and opposite reaction, that one.
Mm-hmm.
The faster you try to go, the more pushback, the greater resistance you have to face.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you are going to get resistance. There's no doubt about it. But you've got to stand your ground, as they say.
Well, it's as a very wise and universal teacher that I listened to said, action is without doubt. Action is absolutely required, but effort is not. Yeah. So, and if you take actions and in a slow manner and in a purposeful manner, like what Paul's covering now, then you don't need to worry too much about putting too much effort into it at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right. So, thing is, with health and fitness, there's no one size fits all. You know, we are all unique, and I know you and myself, we deal with people as individuals, and that's how you have to do it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, unless you've got anything else you want to say.
No, thank you.
No, I know it's not. I know we're not talking about a specific illness or condition or whatever, but we wanted to get that over the fact that you know to actually to get to the destination, the outcome that you want sometimes takes a little bit of time, and you can't rush it. That's the message. So,
and if you have no control over the speed at which the outcome is going to arise, then just what's the point in stressing about it? What's the point in trying to rush it if you have no control over the outcome of the speed of the outcome? So it's like, again, sitting in traffic. There's no point in getting stressed about sitting in traffic because you can't control it. So just let it be.
Yeah, and just the last little thing. I mean, I know it's not humans, but think of a police horse that has to go to demonstrations. Okay, you can't rush training that horse. Okay, and he has to be used to noise and all this type of thing. And same thing if you had a guide dog for the blind. It's going to take time to train that dog. It takes time to train us. So, you know, it's just we'll probably take longer. So
it takes a lifetime to train. It takes a lifetime to train us.
All right. Well, anyway, have a fantastic week, everyone, and we'll speak to you soon.
Enjoy. Arrivederci. Ciao.
Bye.